Hi, everybody. This is Jonathan Nieh from Trowbridge Law Group, and I'm here today to talk about Regulation A. So I'm talking about, first of all, what is Regulation A, how to do an offering under Regulation A, and lastly, who should be doing a Regulation A. Really, who shouldn't be doing a Regulation A. But before I get into that, I just want to point out that we are giving away free copies of Gene's book. Um, this is basically everything you need to know about syndications. We're giving out free copies of it. So to get a free copy, you have to subscribe to our YouTube channel. So, we'll probably link our YouTube channel somewhere, either on our Facebook page or on our website, but go there, subscribe. And then we're going to somehow send free copies of that book to everybody. Or maybe not everybody, but we'll pick winners. Anyways, back to what we're going to be talking about today is Regulation A. So Regulation A is a type of exempt offering. And to kind of give you an idea of where it fits into the regulatory space that we work in, there's private offerings, completely private offerings, for example, under Regulation D, Rule 506B, where you can't advertise your offering at all, right? So all of your investors, you have to have a pre-existing relationship with those investors. So it's completely private. You can't advertise to people that you don't know. And then on the other end of the spectrum is a public offering. For example, a company that's publicly traded, right? So Google, Facebook, Apple, you can buy those stocks on the stock market. Anybody can. That's a public company. That's a public offering. And in the middle is Regulation A. So a lot of people call it, mini IPO. It's not quite public like how Google and Apple and those public companies, you can buy their stocks on publicly traded markets, but it's also not completely private like a Regulation D offering where you have to have a pre-existing relationship in order to raise money from people. So Regulation A, it um, it allows issuers to raise money from anybody, right? So you don't have to be an accredited or sophisticated investor to invest in a Regulation A offering. Anyone can invest. So that's kind of why it's like a public offering, um, like a publicly traded company. But there's some additional hurdles that you have to go through that you wouldn't have to under Regulation D. So you have to apply to the SEC to get approved before you can start raising money under Regulation A. Uh, it's a lengthy process. It could take 6 months to a year. And when you compare that to Regulation D, where you could start raising money within a few weeks to a month, it's a lot longer. But compared to a complete public offering, doing like IPO, that could take years. So it's definitely a little bit quicker than that, but longer than doing a Regulation D offering. Some other kind of hurdles that you have to go through to do a Regulation A offering. Um, well, first of all, let's talk about the tiers within Regulation A. So in Regulation A, there's two tiers. There's Tier 1 and Tier 2. Tier 1, you're capped at $20 million. You can only raise up to $20 million. Tier 2, you're capped at $50 million. So again, comparing that to Regulation D and public offerings, Regulation D, you can raise unlimited amount of money. There's no cap in Regulation D. Same with public offerings, right? If you do an IPO, there's really no cap on the amount of money that you can raise. The market kind of sets the cap. But under Regulation A, it's $50 million for Tier 2 and $20 million for Tier 1. Some other differences between the two tiers. Under Tier 2, you have to get audited financials. So you have to hire a accounting firm to audit your balance sheet, your financial statements. Under Tier 1, you don't have to do an audit, but you do have to have a CPA or accounting firm review your financials. The biggest difference, though, between the two is in regards to state law. So Tier 1, under Tier 1, you still have to abide by state law. So that means if you're doing a Tier 1 offering, wherever you're raising money from, say you're raising, you have investors in Washington, California, Texas, all over the country, you have to make sure that you follow each state's laws. It's called blue sky filings, which could get kind of expensive, can get kind of crazy trying to make sure that you follow all these different laws to raise money. Under tier two, if you do a tier two regulation A offering, you actually preempt state law, so you don't have to worry about any of the blue sky filings. So that's why when you look at the regulation A that have been filed, most people are probably doing tier two offering, because you might as well. I mean, yes, you do have to pay a little bit more to do audited financials, but you can raise more money. You could raise $50 million as opposed to $20 million. And you don't have to worry about state law. So the few Reg A's that I've seen that did it under tier one, what they did is they limited where their investors came from. So I think one I saw was it was a Washington company, and they only marketed their offering to Washington investors to kind of keep down the cost of having to blue sky filings in a bunch of different states. They just focused on one or two states to do that. So that's kind of what Regulation A, how it works. Now let's talk about who should be doing Regulation A, but really who should not. So if you are a first-time syndicator, if you've never raised money before, you should definitely not do a Regulation A. Just go out there and look at some of the companies that have done it. It's always someone who has tons of experience, who have years of experience in their particular industry and in raising money. If you've never raised money before, if you have no experience raising money, no one's going to invest in your offering. I mean, that's just the simple truth of it, right? So if you're a first timer, definitely you should not do a Regulation A offering. If you're trying to acquire a specific property, if you're doing a syndication and you want to acquire one specific property or multiple specific properties, you probably shouldn't do a Regulation A. And the reason is because of the time, right? It takes 6 months to a year to get approved before you can even start raising money. And with a real estate deal with a specific property, you're under time crunch. Closing is scheduled for 30, 60 days from whenever you sign the contract. So you can't sit around waiting 6 months to a year before you can start raising money. So really, Regulation A is more for people that want to do like a blind pool offering, right? So they have the time to go through the process to get approved for the Regulation A, and then they go out, raise the money, and then they go out and acquire the properties. That's really what it's made for. That's most of the companies that we've seen utilize Reg A, they are doing a blind pool. Lastly, I think we probably, again, going back to the people without experience, why we don't, advise first timers to do Regulation A. Another reason is the cost of it, right? So what we've seen and what we found is doing Regulation A is very, very expensive, right? Not just legal and startup costs, but you're gonna have to spend a lot of money marketing your offering, right? Because you're advertising. The whole point of doing Regulation A is because you could advertise to anybody, but to actually get those investors to invest, you're going to have to spend a lot of money marketing yourself and marketing your company. So first timers, if you never raised money before, if you don't have any experience, you're probably not going to have enough capital to get set up to do Regulation A. Anyways, yeah, I mean that pretty much covers it. Everything I wanted to talk about with Regulation A. Our firm, we are able to do Regulation A's. So if you are interested in finding out more about it, finding out more about our services, doing private securities offerings, feel free to give us a call, or give us ring us send us an email. But I mean the easiest thing you can do to find more information, go to our YouTube channel, follow us there. We do weekly podcasts. Gina and I think probably today around noon we're probably going to premiere another podcast. So yeah, definitely check us out. Thanks for your time, and hope to hear from you guys soon.